What time is it? Okay.
Howard, do you know how to mute yourself?
You know, I do, but I don't have a, oh, there it is. Okay.
Hello, friends. Thank you, Julian. Everybody, please rise and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And thank you, Rod and Ron and Howard. Give me just a couple of minutes. I'm going to go over a little bit of business here real quick. First off, we're on Rumble, of course, and we're going to have a lot of people I know are tuning in to us tonight, watching us. So, again, I ask us to join us on Rumble. Like us, get in, sign in, like us, do all that things. We need that algorithm to start working and to help us that way because it does support us. And we're also on YouTube and Twitter and all those other things. And also, what is it? This is 2026. It's 250 years ago. This coming July 4th is when the signing of the Declaration of Independence happened. So it's the 250th anniversary of that. And this whole year, and it's been going on for quite a while, it's a thing called the America 250 Commission, and we're celebrating the 250th anniversary of the United States, basically is what it is. And in doing so, some things that we do is we have what's called a America 250 Historical Minute and a historical discussion. And what happens is we actually put an ad on the radio on KID 106.3, and we talk a little bit about a historical minute. And then every Thursday at 5 o'clock on the Jolene Thomas Show, some ladies from Stand Up for Idaho goes on one of her segments, and they talk about what happened about 250 years ago. So we really appreciate them doing that. And like I say, that'll be tomorrow night at 5 p.m. We do it every Thursday. Check into Jolene's show, and again, KID 106.3, Jolene Thomas Show. Also, when Stand Up for Idaho, we started out, we didn't know what we were trying to do and all this, and we were a nonprofit organization, but we actually were not a charitable organization, considered a charitable organization. And so early last year, I went through and did everything I needed to do to apply to become what's known as a 501c3 charitable organization. And actually my Christmas present, and it took I put my application in May 1st, and about the middle of December, we got the letter from the IRS saying, you're good to go. So we are now a charitable organization. And so we'll take all the donations you can give us, and if you need to, you can even write them off. So we appreciate all of that. Because what we do is our purpose here is to educate. That's one of our major purposes, is let's educate people, provide the venue, provide the means and everything to try and let people know what's going on. We're going to do the best that we can to show all sides of the story, because somewhere between here and there, the truth lies. Okay. And there's a lot of lies between there. So no pun intended. So, again, also, if you're interested in locally, at the end of the month, January 30th and 31st, down in Pocatello, there's an annual Home Educators Conference. And it will be from, where is it going to be? It's down the ISU building, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. But Stand Up for Idaho is actually going to have a booth down there. The Home Educators, East Idaho Home Educators Association contacted us and wanted us to come down and put a booth in and stuff. And so we're going to be down there, and we'd like to encourage everybody to come and see this, and join us if you can. Okay. Next week, we're going to do something, I would say it's a little bit different, but actually it's how we started, how Stand Up for Idaho started. We're going to have an open mic forum, and it's going to be a thing, I call it, what's on your mind? Okay, and I'm inviting everybody to come. You need to be here in person, but let's have a discussion about what's on your mind and what's concerning you. Because, over the last year, we've had some lively forums, and we've had some good speakers, wide range topics, some of them a bit controversial, whatever, but there's a lot of turmoil happening in the world. And we like to kid ourselves that we're in good old Idaho, but the reality of it is Idaho is not immune from what is happening. And we have a big influx of people moving into Idaho, and a lot of them are trying to escape other states, if you will, that have problems, but not all of them are trying to escape. A lot of people come in, and I believe are trying to change Idaho. And so we really need to be paying attention, and we all need to be thoughtful and concerned about. And I'm just going to throw out some things that I had that we need to start paying attention to, especially this year. This year is an election year. We're going to be voting on governor, lieutenant governor, general attorney, the attorney general, as well as legislature. I mean, the whole gambit almost, other than just the it's not a presidential election, but a lot of our state offices are going to be up for election. We need to pay attention to them. We need to pay attention. There's a House Joint Resolution number 4 that I do not like. And what it is it's trying to ask for a constitutional amendment to, in my opinion, what it does is it says that you as the public do not have the right to write an initiative or to put an initiative on, just like this grocery tax initiative, but it's associated with marijuana. Okay, marijuana, narcotics, and psychoactive substances. The legislature is asking the people to give up their right for an initiative on these topics, saying that only the legislature is and I'll put it this way, are smart enough to say yay or nay on legislation. And I think that is absolutely wrong. The thing that they're not telling you is that if there's an initiative in place that gets approved by the public and whatnot, they can still undo it the next session. But I think that for us to give up our right, even on one little thing, or doing an initiative, I think that is a wrong move, personally. And so I would think that we need to fight that one. We actually have an initiative to repeal Idaho's abortion laws. We have the grocery tax repeal initiative that we're going to learn a bit about tonight. I know that we're going to have legislation that's going to try to give immunity to big companies that manufacture pesticides and herbicides and all these things. There's a bill that's been trying to get passed through for many sessions, and it hasn't made it. I bet you money it's going to come up again. There's legislation that's limiting our First Amendment rights already in place, and there potentially is more legislation coming along that says they want to limit your right, your First Amendment rights. We need to pay attention. Okay. Idaho's water issues, just another thing. Fraud is occurring in Minnesota and elsewhere. To think that it is not happening in Idaho is naive, in my opinion. Of course it is. We just don't know to what extent. Election integrity. You know, the Supreme Court today just decided that an Illinois congressman can sue their state over their mail-in voting laws. And so how's that going to affect Idaho's voting, those things? You know, today, yesterday, in one of the Supreme Court heard cases on the Save Women's Sports, you know, Representative Eve Hart and Attorney General Labrador of Washington, D.C. For these hearings. You know, regardless of what their decision is, this issue of transgender issue is not going to go away. We are not immune from all these. I can go on and on. Venezuela, Greenland, Middle East instability, that affects us. And so I would encourage you all to, let's talk about it next week. Come in, let's talk about it, let's see what we can do. Because what will happen is I'll guarantee that Representative Furniss will probably listen in on that. There'll be some other legislators that might listen in. I'm sure the Idaho Freedom Foundation and others will. What are your opinions? Because the reality of it is when you speak up and make your voice heard, it makes a difference. And so that's my rattle on. So next week, plan on being here and let's have a lively discussion. So now, I'm right on time. 6:59. Okay, we're actually going to turn it over tonight, and we have Howard Rynerson, Ron Nate, and Representative Rod Furniss are going to talk about the pros and cons of repealing Idaho's grocery tax. And I've asked Joanne Thomas to come up and actually be our moderator. There's really not a lot of rules other than what she says, so she's the boss. And so I'm going to actually call her up right now and turn it over to her. Let's give her a big hand, and let's give our panel a big hand for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and this is no doubt going to be a really important discussion. So let's get things started with Howard Rynerson. He's bringing forward this initiative for this repeal of the grocery tax. We'll start right there. Howard, give us your thoughts on what drove you to want to repeal this grocery tax, and what were you hearing from people that led you to believe that this is what Idaho needs?
Okay, good. Thank you. I'm glad that you started right there. That's where I'd like to start discussing it. You know, after the very unpopular initiative that we all voted against last year, initiatives weren't really on our mind. In fact, in the Republican Party, I submitted a resolution to up the threshold for resolutions. And then this came about, and I will say that there are people that have been working on this issue a lot longer than I have. Ron Nate, for one, and the others that have been working on it for a long time. And it's been a matter in our legislature for a long time. But there's one legislator over here I talked to in my district quite a bit. And I guess after a certain discussion one day, somewhere along the line in that time period, looking at mainly three different factors that come to my mind as to why I wrote the paperwork, got the paperwork initiated for this initiative. The veto that goes back to 2017, when the people actually passed the bill, something that the public wanted at that point in time. The legislature was all for it. It passed. It got to the governor, Governor Otter at the time. He vetoed it. I think we all know the history. There's quite a bit of history. It goes actually back before 2017, but just starting at that point. And then in know, there was a Rasmussen poll done by the Mountain States Policy Center back around the middle. Well, actually, it was a year ago, but I really tapped into it early last year, and that is the fact that those that were interviewed or polled indicated 87% of the people in the state of Idaho would like to have the repeal of the grocery tax. One other factor was just this idea that we keep kicking this can down the road and we can't get anything done. And it seems to point back to pretty obviously, and I think the public knows this, it seems to point to the leadership in our legislature due to the fact that they won't give it an opportunity to have a hearing in the committee that is brought before. So it never becomes a bill, never gets a chance to get out of a committee, never gets to the House floor, on and on and on. I mean, this goes on forever. I don't know that that's happened every year, but for most of those years between going back to that, the veto and then going forward. And hopefully it'll be ongoing from here on if we don't get the signatures for the repeal through the initiative. That's pretty much it. I mean, it's, I think to some extent, I got to say this, I believe in my mind, and I think a lot of people out there, I'm fairly certain that the public really wants to sign a petition, enough to get the 70,000 signatures necessary, without a doubt in the state. We just are having, you know, first of all, there's issues getting that petition in front of people, but secondly, it shouldn't be upon us to do that. It should be in the legislature's hands, listening to the people. I really feel the people in this state want this to happen, and it's not happening. And that's kind of where I would open up with.
All right. Thank you, Howard. And Ron Nate with the Freedom Foundation has also been very instrumental in the argument for repealing the grocery tax. So let's go right to Ron. Ron, give us your history with this and why you feel now is the time.
You're muted.
You gotta unmute, Ron. Ron, unmute. There you go.
Gotcha. Sorry about that, folks. Thank you, Jolynn. I appreciate the question. Thank you, Stand Up for Idaho and Doug, for hosting this. I hope everyone can hear me fine now. But you're right, I have been working on this a long time. I voted for this bill back in 2017, and it was vetoed, unfortunately, by Governor Otter after the legislature had adjourned. And actually, it was 11 days after it adjourned. And we actually sued Governor Otter and the Secretary of State because the bill shouldn't have, you know, the bill should have gone into effect because the veto was late. Myself and 30 other legislators signed on to this lawsuit, and the Supreme Court gave the governor a pass. Said, yeah, he probably violated the deadline, but he was confused and we'll let it go. Since then, Idahoans have paid $2.1 billion in grocery taxes they shouldn't have had to pay. I think the legislature should act on this. Howard Rynerson is exactly right. Back in 2019, BSU did a poll. It was 74% of Idahoans want it repealed. A year ago, 87% want it repealed. Idaho is behind the curve on this. 46 states do not fully tax groceries like Idaho does. 46 states, only 5 partially tax groceries. 41 states do not tax groceries at all. It's an unfair tax. People who live near Oregon, they go across the border and buy their groceries tax-free, but they still enjoy the grocery tax credit in Idaho. So they're not paying the tax and they get the tax credit. There's others who pay more in taxes than they get in a tax credit. It's clunky and unfair. It's inefficient. Idaho collects a tax, says it's going to hold on to it, and then you have to beg for it back on your tax bill a year later. Government should not be holding on to people's money, even if the tax credit was enough. It hurts families. Inflation's been out of control. And when prices of food go up, it hurts families. Now it's a double whammy because they pay 6% on the inflation too. And so I'm looking at families I'm looking at government already being too big, and you're going to hear two things in the debate tonight. Those who want the grocery tax in place say that they need it because government needs the money. And in doing that, they're going to downplay the impact that this has on families. I'm looking to help families, and I am not concerned about government not having enough money. Government already has too much money. They've increased their budget by 60% in 6 years. We should cut programs and cut wastefulness if there's any concern about a grocery tax repeal being too hard for government. It's a dumb policy. It's a dumb policy to tax groceries, do a tax credit, and just so that you might get a few extra dollars from somebody who's passing through the state. So it's a no-brainer for me. It's unpopular, inefficient, and it's a dumb policy.
All right. Thank you so much, Ron. And we'll go to Representative Rod Furniss, a representative in Madison County who is actually against this. Rod, what is it about repealing the grocery tax that's most concerning for you?
Hi, Jolene. I got to correct you because Ron is from Madison County. I would never be from Madison County. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm from Jefferson County.
Jefferson, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, in fact, our tribals, Madison and Jefferson. So, that was tough. That was tough to be from Madison. But I sure understand the mistake. But I represent Jefferson, Fremont, Clark, and Lemhi County. So we drive clear to Salmon a lot. Have a lot of wonderful people in our district. Jolene, do you know if the handout that I handed out, do you know if that was circulated among the people there?
I think most people have received it. I got one.
Okay, all right. Just as long as somebody got that. What that is that's an Idaho Legislative Services Office analysis on the grocery tax. We rely heavily on LSO for the numbers on how they shake out. Last year, House Bill 231 came before the House and the Senate. It was in a hearing. We had a hearing on the grocery tax. People came and testified. We had all different aspects. It's when we raised the credit, the grocery tax credit, up to $155 per person or $250 per person if you wanted to itemize. And that bill went through the committee in the Senate and the House. The House passed it 61-6. The Senate passed it 30-3. So there was wide support for the grocery tax credit after all the hearings. So there was a hearing on that. The grocery tax, we have about $3 billion in sales tax that we get throughout the state. Roughly, 10.7 or 12.4% of it is grocery tax. And we get those numbers from LSO and also from the state of Utah, who keeps track of that. That generates around $200 million of revenue to the state. 65% of that money goes to education. That's after the credit. So after we collect the sales tax, we get the money, we then give the credit back. And the credit, the $155, a family of 4 can roughly buy $10,333 worth of groceries. Now, not everything you buy at the store are groceries. In fact, the USDA report came out just this month, said that only 70% of the stuff you buy at the store are groceries. So when you look at that, when you go to the store, maybe you're spending $1,000 a month, you're really spending $700 on groceries. This credit does cover the grocery tax. And unfortunately, when all these polls are done, really they don't mention the grocery tax credit. So it's quite a bit of credit. We feel like we've kept up with inflation. Also, the poorest among us that are on WIC or SNAP, they don't pay the sales tax on it. So the very indigent, they're not paying that tax on it. And so the rest of us are getting that money back. Very few people in Idaho spend more than the credit. And so with that information, we were able to get that passed through the Senate, the House, and make it happen. If we were to do away with the credit, the revenue is about $200 million. And that revenue doesn't come from Idahoans. So if we were to do away with that tax, Idahoans that aren't filing an income tax returns, maybe they're tourists, we don't know what all the stuff they are, and I'm all for repeal of grocery tax. We just need to replace that income with tax money, not from Idahoans. And so the rate of return on this money, on the money that we send back on the credit, is substantial, and it comes from non-Idahoans. And so you need to look at that really close. That's why the House and the Senate passed this at a majority. And once you understand the credit, it makes a lot of sense. When I go to business or state meetings outside the state, I get asked about my grocery tax credit. And when I tell them how it works and how a family of four can buy $10,333 with the credit worth of groceries, they understand that, and then they are envious because we get revenue from people that don't live in the state. And that's why this went through the House, that's why it went through the Senate, that's why it was vetted in committee, and that's why it passed unanimously nearly from our delegation at Idaho State Capitol. And I appreciate Howard and Ron for their opinion, but the people that represent us here in Idaho, when they look into the credit, it makes a lot of sense for the people of Idaho, and it's good. It's money that we get without taxing Idahoans.
I'd love to be able to respond, Jolene.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's have you guys, let's start with you, Ron. Go ahead and respond to what Representative Furniss had to say, particularly regarding that tax credit.
Absolutely. The tax credit is there, and the representative is absolutely right. On net, it's about $200 million that are collected that are not refunded to taxpayers. So it is more money for government. It's a $200 million net tax on Idahoans. He talks about the money paid by non-Idahoans. It's about $24 million. It is a tiny fraction of the amount collected. Absolutely, $24 million. It's in the same LSO report that you just cited. Same report, Mr. Furniss. And that $24 million, other states don't seem to be concerned about collecting money from tourists or out-of-staters, and they seem to be doing just fine. He says that the good people send representatives and senators to Boise to vote for them. I would challenge Representative Furniss to do this. Bring it to the floor, let the representatives vote on it, and I guarantee you repealing the grocery tax passes with a supermajority, just like it did in 2017. In 2017, the vote on this bill was 51-19. Only the Democrats and a few Republicans voted against it. In the Senate, it was unanimous amongst Republicans, except for two. And so it is a vastly popular idea. And if representatives and senators are allowed by leadership to vote on this, it passes easily, because people are tired of paying the taxes, begging for some of it back. And by the way, not all Idahoans get it back. On net, $200 million does not come back. Some Idahoans pay the tax, but don't get the credit at all because they didn't have to file taxes. Some of them realize this and file a form just to get the credit. There's 100,000 folks in Idaho that have to file just to get the credit because they don't have any other tax liability. And so we have all that paperwork and administrative cost happening because we want this silly tax credit system where we pay it in, get some of it back, and then say we're working for Idaho. And notice embedded in Representative Furniss's answers, he says this is good because it gets more money for Idaho government, more money for education. Again, I'm telling you, the two sides of this story are one wants more money for government and minimizes the impact on families. I care mostly about families, and I care less about Idaho government.
All right. Thank you so much, Ron. And Howard, how would you respond to what Representative Furniss is saying regarding the fact that a lot of people are envious of this tax credit for groceries?
Well, you know, it's been several months now since I've started this process. It's about July of last year. Heard all these arguments. the number that was just brought out about tourist money, I've never even heard that number, but I wouldn't argue with that. I think it's, as it's been stated to me, it's very overrated that we collect a lot of money from tourists. As a tourist, I never go to a grocery store when I go into town. And most tourists, I don't think do. I think they eat at a restaurant or someplace like that, if they're in town for a couple of days. But, the one thing about it is I realize that there are those out there that don't pay a grocery tax, but I've had signatures sent to me from a particular lady I'm thinking of in Post Falls. And I think it was Post Falls or some Sandpoint, I think it was actually. And senior citizen, she went throughout her senior citizen complex, gathered signatures, and sent me 2 or 3 pages of those from her complex there. These are people that are not, they're not on a SNAP program, and they're on limited incomes, So on another note too, that Ron brought up, I live in Payette. From where I'm at, I'm 4 miles from Winco in Ontario. There's a Walmart there. But from Coeur d'Alene, Lewiston, Weiser, Payette, I mean, you're thousands of people along the line here, not even talking about Montana, but you either have Washington or Oregon to shop in. You go to Lewiston, you got Clarkston across the border. And there's thousands of people that are buying groceries. It's like Ron said, it's just a dumb process that we go through. I don't ask for the tax credit, but my accountant just automatically files for it. And that's just a dumb thing to do. Quite frankly, I'd just like to make this one statement too. Maybe it almost sounds like a final statement, but really, I'm not really sure, and I'm going to say leadership again, because I think that's where the problem or the blockage is at. I don't know that they're really tuned in to what the state wants, the general populace, because I think generally, if we can get that petition in front of there, we'll have zero problems getting the 70,000 signatures. So that's my comment on that.
Okay, thank you so much. So Representative Furniss, you're hearing their response to all of this. What would you say is the concern about the impact that this will have on Idaho if this grocery tax goes away? What is the major concern?
Well, what you see on the LSO report that's exactly the question I posed to the Legislative Services Office. They do all the calculations for me. The end result is a $200 million less money into the general fund. And this year, I'm on JFAC. We're working with budgets this year. We have a really tight budget year this year. In fact, the governor's budget that just came out only has $32 million left in the bank account at the end of the year. So to repeal the grocery tax this year would be devastating. We've worked really hard to reduce property tax in the state of Idaho. I've been on the legislature since 2018. We've reduced income tax from 6.9% down to 5.3%. We have been really tax conscious. The leadership, I think, has done a great job of reducing taxes in the state of Idaho. You've gotten property tax rebates, you've got income tax rebates. We've lowered the burden for schools, a lot of that. So to take the 200 million out of the coffers would be devastating to the budget system that we have right now. It would also be a travesty because we would have to make that up by taxing Idahoans. Right now, there's nothing in this report about $24 million. That just doesn't exist. It's $200 million.
Right there. 4 million. It's the report.
I didn't interrupt you, Mr. Nate, while you were talking.
You did once.
Okay, let's just, if we can, if you have got something to say, just raise your hand and I'll, once he finishes, I'll come right to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. So basically what we've got here is money coming into the state of Idaho that Idahoans didn't have to pay for. Whether, you can call it tourism, you can call it whatever you want. Our delta on the money that we collect and the money we pay out for the credit is $200 million. And that's a significant budget amount. 65% of that goes to education. It's a great way to fund our schools, and we see that as a really good revenue source. And if you've got ideas on how to replace that revenue, that's great. We'd love to hear them. But I can tell you that this process that we go through in the state of Idaho, where we have hearings, we increase the grocery tax, and the legislators vote on that tax credit, it was almost unanimous. And we don't see that very often in the House. And I know that I appreciate the initiative process. I hope that it goes through. I respect that process. You know, and if he wants to get the signatures, we'll do it. But I'm just telling you, it will hurt our budgeting process significantly.
Okay, let's go right to you, Ron, for your rebuttal there.
Yeah. Again, I'll point out when he's saying it'll hurt the budget, again, he's worried about the government. I'm worried about families. The budget is in a shortfall this year, and that is because the legislature is overspent and the governor is overspent. They've increased the spending in Idaho by 60% over the last 6 years. It's an outrageous increase in spending that far exceeds inflation and population growth. Now we're in a pickle, and they want to say, well, we can't do tax relief now because we got to support all that spending. If we do the tax relief, what other tax are you going to raise? I say this. I say cut back some of that overspending you did. Repeal Medicaid expansion. Repeal launch. Reduce the excess spending you've done in all these other agencies. You don't have to replace a tax cut with another tax increase. You replace it with smaller and lesser government. And for the representative's reference, on page 1, about 2/3 of the way down in the right column is where it does the calculation and says the difference between citizens and non-citizens is $24 million. It's right there on the same report you cited, Representative Furniss, and it's not a very big chunk. And again, if you're talking about the amount of revenue that we need for the budget, again, you're concerned about the government. I'm concerned about families. Families are hurting. They're getting double hit, both with taxes and inflation on top of those taxes.
All right, thank you. And Howard, I would imagine you have talked to people in other states where there is no grocery tax. What kind of stories are you hearing about how not having grocery taxes is benefiting everyday families?
Well, I hate to disappoint you on that. I haven't talked to anybody except for one, excuse me, one individual in Utah that I know. He's a constitutional attorney down there. And they've got a real confusing system where their grocery tax gets calculated based on municipality, but it's somewhere around 1.75%. That's one of those states that has a limited amount. Other than that, I haven't talked to anybody outside of state, but I've sure talked to a lot of people in state, and I'm going to tell you, it's overwhelming. Again, I don't think the legislature is listening to the people. They're just not. This is, I mean, 10 years of history here. You could write a book on it, and it would be the same result, you know, every year that it comes up. The one thing that is, you know, we talk about the money. We talk about the money so much. And I don't know. I don't know these numbers like Ron and Rod do. You know, there can be reappropriation. There can be lack of funding or backing off on taxation or whatever. But I do know this. The people in the state, and any state, anywhere, we don't have a choice when it comes to buying food. You can't get around that issue. I mean, if there's some other issue that we're being taxed on, you know, you might have another option. You don't have an option on food. You have to pay taxes on the food that you eat. Fundamentally, it's agreed on with most people I talk to, with everybody I talk to. Fundamentally, it's a right to provide for ourselves and our families, to not have to pay tax, excuse me, on the food that we eat.
Let me ask you, Representative Furniss, is there opposition to putting this to the people for a vote?
We really did that last year. We went in, we had a discussion on grocery tax in the committees. The discussion came out to raise the tax credit. It's significant. It keeps up with inflation. It gets the money back to the individuals who are paying that tax. And we make a lot of money by doing that. Other states are envious of our grocery tax. They just can't implement it. We do a great job of repealing that, of getting it back. We also, you know, if you make zero money in the state of Idaho, you can file for a grocery tax and get the $155. Again, the lowest income people, the people that are on SNAP and WIC, they don't pay sales tax on their groceries now. So everybody gets the money back that they have, that they put in. It's a system that works for Idaho. It's a system that increases the revenue, and it's not taxed by Idahoans. It's a great system, and it's working very well. The leadership is in tune. We do care about families. We want them to have as much as they can have possibly. We cut their taxes. That's an incentive to do what we do. And you know, at the end of the day, the people that are the lowest income, they are already benefiting from it. So it's a way to make money without taxing Idahoans. We have to remember that. And if you itemize, you can do $250. So that's $16,000 of groceries that you can buy without having to pay tax. And for larger families, it really works out really well. They actually get a lot more with the tax credit. Again, this is a great system. It works. It's been around since 1965, and it's done a great job of putting revenue into the hands of where we need it in education. It does a great job of putting that there. And to take it away, especially this year where we're really, really tight, it was an effort. I know I've been in JFAC for 2 days. It's an effort to balance this budget right now. And it's not because of overspending. We go through, you know, Idaho has a Doge system in place already. We meet in subgroups. We go through those budgets with a fine-tooth comb. We call the directors. We ask them, do you really need another car? Do you need another computer? We do a great job of managing those budgets, and I can tell you we're really tight on what we do there. And not only that, but over time, you know, in fact, last year we had an agency that wanted to have 40 new cars. And we asked them how many miles were on the cars they wanted to replace. We didn't approve it. And so we go through those budgets. We're really good about cutting spending. You'll see a lot of cuts this year out of necessity. This year, no state employee and no teachers are getting raises because of the budget situation right now. And so we do care about families. We care about employees. We have that. We do a great job of managing a budget, and this money is something that education needs to keep it going, and we're not charging Idahoans.
Even with the money in place, state employees, teachers are not getting raises. How would you respond to that?
Jolene, thanks. I would say that you cannot say that this is not hurting Idahoans. It's net $200 million of taxes, and that's not tourists. It's not. It's simply not. And if he says it would hurt the budget to get rid of it, it is because it is taking money away from government. You can't get around that truth. It's simple as that. And if he says that we vote on it and consider it and, you know, we're representing the people, well, I was in the House at the same time Representative Furniss was. I called the bill to the floor 30 times. Leadership and Furniss voted against that because they did not want the representatives voting on grocery tax repeal because they knew what would happen. And so to say that we have had this discussion in this vote is absolutely untrue and disingenuous because they never let it get voted on. Leadership puts it in the chairman's drawer. Leadership prevents it from getting to the floor. Leadership actually changed the rules of the House so an individual legislator could not even introduce the bill on their own. That is how much they don't care about Idaho families. They want the money. They give them part of the credit back and then say, look at how we helped you. And I have talked with legislators from a lot of other states, and they are not envious of our policy of taxing Idahoans and giving a partial credit. They are envious of Idaho because we are largely a free and conservative state. But I see us slipping away with dumb policies like grocery taxes and grocery tax credits, and the ever-growing sector of government growing by 60% in the last 6 years. That is not a conservative legislature. That is overspending, and we've called them out on it. And we've given the receipts. We've given them the way to get back to being a responsible legislature in terms of its fiscal budgeting.
All right, we have a question from Doug, and I believe we're at that point where we want to let people in the audience ask some questions. Then I will give you guys some time at the end to share any final thoughts, tie things together.
Great.
Yeah, first of all, again, thank you guys for coming, and Representative Furniss, I apologize. I was the one, and I don't know why, but I told Jolynn Madison County, and I was thinking up north, and all of a sudden Madison County came to mind.
It would be a good move.
So don't blame Jolynn for my error. I appreciate that. But the one thing that I want to get to is, you sent me this handout, and I printed it out, and Ron talked about something else. He showed up something that sort of looked like it, but I couldn't find what, Ron Nate was talking. And so are we looking at the same document, I guess is my question.
What I have is the Idaho fact sheet that was prepared by LSO for the Idaho Senate Majority Caucus. And this is what was circulated around this last legislative session when they were trying to raise the tax credit and keep the tax in place. And so that's what I was referring to. And that cites the numbers that Rod was talking about, net 200 million in taxes, but it also cites 24 million of that is all that comes from non-citizens.
Haven't seen that document.
Have you seen that document?
Oh, you should check
No.
it out. It's very enlightening. Also, we produce a document. You can go to idahofreedom.org and go to the issue on grocery taxes. And you can see the map of the states. You can see what our surrounding states do, and you can see the data on grocery tax repeal.
Okay, well, just for simplicity, so the discussion, we know that we're talking from the same set of data. Ron, would you mind sending me a copy of what you referred to, and then I can go ahead and send it out to everybody later? We won't be able to look at it tonight, but at least we know what you're talking about compared to what we have in our hand. I think that would be beneficial if we could do that, okay?
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
All right, thank you so much. And I think that I'll turn it back over to Jolynn, but I do think that we have some questions already, and start grabbing them.
Yeah, we can start grabbing some questions. If you want to come on up and be sure to look right there, talk in the mic, look out there. We can get to some questions, and let's go from there.
Hey, first of all, I want to say thank you very much for all three of you for being in attendance. I got to admit, coming into this, I was more for the tax credit because I thought, hey, great, let's let somebody else pay our tax burden. But reading some of that, and I looked up the national average for what families spend in our country and in Idaho, and I know that's not specific, so I guess I'm going to speak hypothetically. But first of all, a clarifying question, and I think all of these questions are actually for Representative Furniss. But you mentioned that the tax credit goes to schools, but doesn't it go to a general fund, or is it specifically set up for schools? Or I didn't know how that worked. That one just kind of took me by surprise. And I don't know,
65% of it goes to the general fund from the sales tax bucket. There's a sales tax bucket of $3 billion. 65% of that goes to the general fund. The rest is disseminated amongst other buckets. And then 69% of that fund goes to education. So it's roughly 65% of the
Okay.
grocery tax credit that goes to education.
How is that decided? Is that already decided for like the next budget or? Okay. Then the other question I have, and this is more ideologically. So if we're okay with taxing in this manner, which I kind of feel goes against the Republican platform, but if we're okay with doing this, then why don't we do it for fuel tax or rental tax where we can identify citizen or people that aren't citizens of Idaho? Why don't we do it that way too?
It's
Yeah,
just the way we've been doing it since 1965. It's just been in
Okay.
place that long.
And then the last
don't you love it
one,
when tradition hits your wallet? That, oh, we've always done it this way, therefore it must be okay. You know, there's a more efficient way to get money from tourists. Just put up toll booths at the borders and save Idahoans from having to pay all this tax.
A little unreasonable, but
yeah,
yeah. What's your next
100
question?
If it's 65% of the 200 million that's going to schools, if we take that number at its word, that's $130 million out of a $3.1 billion budget. It's peanuts. There are plenty of ways to reshift our spending to keep schools whole without having to tax Idahoans on their food purchases.
131 million would give teachers a significant raise to make us competitive with other states.
You could do both. You could repeal taxes and still give the raise. It'd be amazing.
my last question, I'm sorry for taking too much time, is so I looked up what the average family would spend. And basically, if you spend over 10,300 and some odd dollars, and I know that science can be fine tuned, but by the math I'm seeing, I would have to spend, my family would be over that threshold, meaning it benefits us to do the receipts. And according to my math, 35 to 55% of Idahoans would benefit from keeping receipts. So I guess my question is, once those numbers come out and we have a grasp of that, because this kicks in for this year. So once those numbers come out, would there be reconsidering the balance of burden once we have identified those numbers? And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have to tell you, if Idaho families would have had to have been clairvoyant to do the receipts to get this credit on their taxes for this last year, because the bill was passed, it went into effect in July, and you would have had to collect receipts from January 1st of last year for those to count. And really, you have to collect all your grocery receipts. You have to itemize each receipt about what is groceries and what is not, add them all up, and show that that exceeds your burden up to $95 above the amount. So do you want to do all of those hours and meticulous bookkeeping for $95? It's an insult to Idahoans to do this bookkeeping for breadcrumbs. Just get rid of the tax altogether and save us all $200 million.
Howard, do you have anything you would like to add?
Oh, you're muted up, Howard.
Forget about that. Yeah, this is a question that I hope one of you have an answer for. The grocery tax program has to be administered. What costs are involved in that? Ron, you have a number on that?
I don't, but it's all part of the tax commission. I know that when they went into this bookkeeping for breadcrumbs, the tax commission hired 3 new folks. They said they needed 3 new folks to do this. And by the way, they know that this bookkeeping for breadcrumbs is not going to work, because even the fiscal note on this bill, the writers of the bill only attributed $3 million to people getting the extra tax credit by collecting receipts. They said it would only be $3 million overall. That is virtually nothing, and it was just window dressing on a flawed bill.
Representative Furniss, anything you want to add before we move on to another question?
Just a little bit. It wasn't a flawed bill. It was a good bill. And that's why 61 House members voted for it and 30 senators voted for it.
They had
It
no
wasn't a flawed
alternative.
bill. And then I'd just like to address the 60% over 6 years in the budget. Most of that was health insurance and Medicaid. So those are increases that we really didn't have a lot of control over. And so, you know, to say that's a little disingenuous.
They voted on all that spending. It was done on votes. It's not just out of their control.
All right, thank you. Do we have another question?
So my question is, if I'm paying 6% sales tax on the food that I eat, and then and it goes to the government, and then they give me back $150, how can you not call that socialism?
You're right. It is socialism. It's redistribution, because it's only the very rare family that gets back exactly what they paid in. Most families either get more than they paid in, or the vast majority get less than they paid in. It's a redistribution scheme. It's clunky, unfair, and inefficient. And it is socialistic, absolutely.
Most families get more than they paid in, actually, because
they
not
can't,
everything you
because on
buy
net it's a
at the
positive.
grocery store, not everything you buy at the grocery store is groceries. And so it's roughly 70% of what you buy at the grocery store. So you do get that back, and it's automatic on your tax return. And then we net the money, and we're able to get $200 million that didn't come from Idahoans.
That is just untrue. There is not $200 million coming from non-Idahoans. Idahoans are paying more in taxes than they're getting back. That's how you get the $200 million. It is just disingenuous for him to insist that there's $200 million coming in. There is no evidence, there's no data to suggest that. In fact, it's the opposite. I cannot believe you continue with that lie, Representative. It is flat out a lie.
Well, that's why you're not in office.
So
I
I
don't
just want to know
understand
why
that.
you are choosing for me how I spend my money or how much I should get back. That should be my choice. Basically socialism. You're telling me what to do with my money and deciding for me how much I should get back.
Well, the income tax laws are the same. We're telling you how much to pay in income tax as well. So it's really not any difference.
Could have been said by a Democrat.
I'm not a Democrat, I'm a Republican, and you're a libertarian.
By the way, they are using your money all year long before they give it back to you.
Ed, sir. And we've got another question, guys.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me? I was told this week that the farmer is receiving prices on his products that he received in the 1990s, that it hasn't increased, yet groceries have gone up. And so my question simply is, if the grocery tax was done away, could that benefit the farmer? And by the way, I was raised on a farm in Montana, but I found an Idaho. So I raised wheat, and my dad raised cows, but her dad bought and sold cows as a livelihood.
I would say this, that if people did not have to pay 6% on top of their grocery expenses, that money could be spent on buying even more groceries. And so, yes, it would help farmers quite a bit to have consumers with more money in their pockets so they can buy more food for their families and get by a lot easier. So absolutely, it would help the agriculture industry to get rid of this dumb tax.
But people do get the money back in their taxes and have that money.
The fiscal note is $200 million for a reason.
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Any other questions?
If I can make a comment on, there's been some studies out there.
Go ahead and come up and we'll let Howard make a comment, and then you can go right after.
I think there's some studies out there that indicate that if you have more money to spend on food, you're likely to buy higher quality food, and therefore probably benefit the family in that regard.
Thank you.
Heard that.
My turn.
Yep, go right ahead.
I would just like to know what the point is. This is, I guess, for Representative Furniss. what's the point if if you feel like you're giving it all back to us? What's the point of taking it in the first place then?
Because we net on that sheet, you'll net that we net $200 million. And that's why we do it. That's why the senators, 30 senators voted to keep it. That's why 61 representatives voted to keep it, because it was a budget.
So you're not
issue.
giving it all back then?
We are. Every penny, usually every penny goes out in the credit that we voted for, which is $155 per person in your family.
So answer my question again. I'm not sure. You don't give it all back, right? Because you have to have it for the government, right?
No, we do give everything back that you've spent on sales tax through the credit. So how many people are in your family?
Me.
Okay, so you can spend about $2,500 roughly on groceries at the grocery store before you pay any tax.
Well, I still don't see the point. If you're telling me you're giving it all back, then
Because
why do you
some people that come through Idaho that evidently buy groceries, they don't file for the income tax credit. So we have a net. We collect more tax than we give back, but we give back every Idahoan that files a tax return. We give back that money. We have
I'm not sure
$200 million
that's
left
true, but
over.
I'll give it to you. Okay.
What's that? Say that again.
Okay. Well, I see the problem. You should just charge those people then. Just say, are you from out of Idaho? Oh, then you have to pay the grocery sales tax. You know? Yeah.
You're right.
Which
You're
you
right,
can do with a
Julie.
toll booth, right, Ron?
You're right, Jolene. He is trying to have it both ways, talking in a circle, saying it's good because we get money for schools, but we give all the money back. But his escape hatch.
I didn't say we give all the money
but
back.
what he's trying to say is the money from out-of-staters is the only thing going into Idaho government, which is flat out wrong, because only 24 million of this. I have the data. It's from LSO. Only 24 million comes from out-of-staters. And by the way, it is a horribly bad policy to tax Idahoans at $400 million, return 225 million, and say 25 came from out-of-staters, and do all of that work to keep 25 million from out-of-staters. It's just bad policy. And I will challenge you, Representative Furniss. If you say that the will of the legislature is the will of the people, then bring it to the floor for a vote and demonstrate to us that the legislature, in fact, says they do not want to repeal the tax credit. I challenge you to bring it.
We brought it last year. We bought it last year. And
No, did you vote on it? Did you vote on it?
We voted on it to
No, you
increase the
did not.
credit.
That is a lie. That is the second lie tonight, Representative Furniss. You did not.
I don't appreciate
vote
you
on
telling me I'm a
grocery tax.
liar. I don't appreciate that, Ron. You know it's not civil, and
Well,
you need
show me the vote.
you need to quit doing it.
Show me the vote.
Okay, so let's focus there for a moment and give Representative Furniss a chance to answer that allegation that he didn't vote. Representative, you have the floor. Go right ahead.
We voted to increase the tax credit last year. That was what came out of committee. So the committee had a bill before it to increase the tax credit. It was $120. We increased it to $155. And if you itemize, you can get $250. That's what came out of committee, and that's what we voted on.
So you voted actually then on this tax credit, but not actually on the effort to repeal the grocery tax.
If the committee would have decided to have that come out of committee as a repeal, we certainly would have looked at it. But that's not what the committee decided. That's not what the people asked for, and that's not what came out of committee.
Would you be open to having a vote this year?
If someone wants to bring it, we'd be happy to vote on it, but it needs to make economic sense.
Well, speaking of economic sense, how much does the administrative costs, how much does that figure in?
Ron said the fiscal note was $3 million. I don't recall what it said on the bill.
No, well, I said the 3 million was the amount that they attributed to the bookkeeping for breadcrumbs. that they knew
Oh.
people weren't going to be doing that. That's what I said the 3 million was. And I'm glad that Representative Furniss walked back his words there, because they in fact did not vote on repealing the grocery tax last session. I wish they would have.
Ron tried to bring it up, and I was serving with him 30 times. He stood up every day, wasted our time, and tried to get it on the floor. He's right. There was no reason to bring it. There was no support for it. The bill never hit the floor. And we voted not to bring, and the entire legislature in the House voted not to bring it on the floor. It was a representation not to have
Yeah,
it.
Howard, I would love to know what kind of momentum you feel there is right now for this initiative.
I will tell you this. We've got limited amount of people in the legislature. Out there in the public, it's common knowledge that there never is a bill that gets out of a desk drawer of a chairman of that committee. So don't say that the committee won't bring a bill. They don't get a chance to look at it as far as the general. And if that's wrong, prove me wrong. But that's generally what is out there in the state, that it never gets a chance to hit to get a hearing. Therefore, it'll never get to the House floor.
Yeah, and Jolene, may I add to that? May I add to that, Jolene? May I add to that?
Just one second. Let's let.
My turn. I'd like to add to that is one of the most frustrating things in our legislature, is this talking around the issue, saying it never came before committee, or this was the will of the committee, when a lot of the good ideas of Idahoans never get to be voted on in the committee, never get to be voted on the floor. And he is right. I tried to bring the bill to the floor 31 times. They didn't vote on the bill. They voted with leadership to say, you know what, leadership gets to keep the bill in the drawer. They did not want to vote on grocery tax repeal because they knew it would pass. And so that is the frustrating thing about this, is that Rod Furniss says that these procedural votes are votes on the bill. Then when I point out that the procedural vote on the pay raise, which he voted for himself, was a vote, he says, no, that was procedural. So they want to have it both ways. And that's why people of Idaho can't trust their politicians, because they distance themselves from responsibility when it's something they don't like. They take responsibility for things they do like, and Idahoans get hurt both times.
That's just not
Representative
true.
Furniss, I know that you are out there. I've seen you at things. You're interacting with your constituents. What are they telling you? Are they telling you, no, we don't want this grocery tax repeal? Or are they saying that they absolutely love this tax credit?
I don't think a lot of people understand the credit system. Everyone I talk to, they talk to me about grocery tax, and then when I explain the credit, they didn't even know they had the credit. I think it's probably not as well known. The accountants just take it, like Ron said. The accountants just take it on their taxes each year, and I don't think people even really understand. I've talked to people for 8 years about the grocery tax credit, and very few really understand the credit, on how it works, how you calculate it, how they get tax-free groceries, and usually after I get done explaining it, they're okay with it.
Well,
what would it take to get this to be voted on, Representative Furniss? What is it going to take for this to have the opportunity to see the light of day?
Well,
Good
it's
question.
normal. It has to go through the normal process, and that process is you have to have the chairman of Rev and Tax to hear that bill, and that's Representative Cannon out of Blackfoot. Very good representative, is an attorney. He understands Rev and Tax, and if somebody brought that to him, he would decide whether to hear it or not. But he would look at the issues. He would look at the tax credit. He would look at the money that's being brought into the coffers to the state of Idaho, and he would make a decision. And he's very astute, and he does a great job.
Okay,
Jolene,
we do have some other questions.
Can I
Let's
respond
let
to
Ron
that?
go ahead real quick.
Yeah, he just described a process where you have a chairman of a committee acting like the king of Idaho, saying that Representative Cannon got to decide this for all of Idaho. The
Thank
bill was brought to him last session. He wouldn't hear it, so it was introduced just for information purposes only to the clerk, which is unfortunate for Idaho. And I am not surprised that the people that Furniss talks to are okay with the credit system, because he's probably misrepresenting it just like he did tonight, saying that it's a net gain from outside interest.
Ron, that's
When
not
most of
true.
all, it is a
I
net
tell the
tax
truth on that,
when most
on
of
that
all, it
credit.
is a net tax on Idahoans.
It's
to
you
the
that
tune-
doesn't explain the credit to people.
Yeah, well, I explained the credit to people. I explained how much they pay, how much comes from out of state. I'm honest about it, and they are appalled.
I don't
And
believe that.
87% of Idahoans are with me. They want to get rid of the grocery tax.
They don't know
And
about the
even
credit.
Marco Erickson said he'd vote for it if it was brought to the floor.
And go ahead and
I'm
come up.
telling you,
I know you've
75%
got
would
a
vote for it.
question.
So, how many people do you think really understands the tax credit? Because what I'm hearing is there's not a lot of people that do. So if this is something that's really supposed to help, say, elderly, the older ones, kids are gone, whatever, and they don't know this, what do you think the percentage is? I mean, I'm kind of thinking that maybe you don't want to give up the money because people are ignorant about the tax credit, and it's just going in that building money, and you just don't want to get rid of it. And then that's a comment. I mean, I'm just kind of curious about that. I think a lot of people don't understand about the tax credit. They're not getting married. They're not having families. They could, care less. So let's just get their groceries taxed and get money in our coffers. And the other thing is, and I will think about this. I had asked a legislature guy, I can't remember who it was, but anyway, in passing about the tax credit, his comment was, well, you just don't know how to get it through. Like how we're going to handle it. It's going to cost money, and how we don't even know how we're going to implement it. Like, what's a grocery? What's food? It's
Good
like,
point.
really? Is it that difficult? And you're a legislature, you can't figure this out? So is that a problem in trying to just define what a food product is? I mean, the SNAP program has obviously defined it. Would it?
True.
That's
the
true. And
taxes
And
kinda
that's the
work
way
on-
that's the way it would be defined in the grocery tax repeal, is that the SNAP definition is what would be used. And you mentioned seniors who may not understand the credit system. You're exactly right. They're getting hurt by this. Many seniors don't have to file income taxes because they don't have income tax liability. They don't know that they have to file a form anyway to get the credit. Many of them go without the credit because they didn't know.
Yeah, so they're spending all this money in groceries and stuff that they're trying to,
Yep,
I mean,
exactly.
they could go out and buy a little personal item that they're going without because they don't know about it. Anyway.
And they're part of
Thank
the
you for your
$200
kind
million.
words.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
What it comes down to is through the grocery tax, we're loaning Idaho that money so they can return it at the end of the year. And Ron knows more of the economics than I do, that it's a net tax, not a gain, but a cost. So anyway.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. And Representative Furniss, I want to be fair and give you a final chance to say anything before we move on to this other question.
I I have a hard break here in about 5 minutes that I need to go, but I just appreciate you asking the questions. I'm always open to ideas. Again, if we can replace the income from the grocery tax, I'm all ears. But it is a tight year, and we need to look at that really carefully, and that's why it goes through committee. That's why it goes through the JFAC, and that's why we all look at what the budget is. And even though it's really good to hear that we need to cut, but we have services we need to offer, and that's what it comes down to. The grocery tax has worked well in Idaho for a long time, and the 200 million isn't from people that just don't file. It's the majority of the people get the credit.
Right. Thank you. One more question right now, right here.
My wife and I have been living in San Diego for 26 months on a mission. Okay, so we get back to town, and it's kind of a muddy stream we got going here. So our honorable Governor Little rode into office on millions and millions of dollars in the coffers that we had excess money. Now we're at the point state land. And so it's just interesting to me how things go downhill so fast. So my question is our legislature work for?
You just step up to the mic. I'm not hearing all that. Sorry.
It's breaking
Can
up
you
a little.
Okay, Mr. Furniss,
Yeah,
I'm
there you
asking
go.
you directly, are the legislators in this state working for their constituents, or are they working for IACI?
We're working for you.
Where's our budget?
Well, last
I
year,
mean,
I
things are
can tell
going
you,
downhill. The buzzword is, of course, we always bring up education. No, we're spending a lot of money on education without results.
actually, we are getting
This
results.
dodge we
but-
got, it seems like foxes in the hen house. We need to
Well, if
tighten
I-
up our budget.
Okay, I agree. Can I answer that question? You asked a really
Please.
good question. Last year, we did a tax reduction from 5.695 to 5.3%. It's about a $450 million tax reduction. At the same time, right after that, President Trump proposed, and I'm a Trump advocate, I love Trump, he proposed the Big Beautiful Bill. The Big Beautiful Bill said we'll no longer pay taxes on overtime, tips, interest on cars. There's a myriad of things there. Well, the way Idaho taxes work on their 1040 is that we take the line item of the adjusted gross income and we take that number and then we tax Idahoans on that number. So what happened to us is we reduced taxes significantly, and then we also have a tax reduction coming in from the Big Beautiful Bill. And so that's why we've had to tighten our budget so much this year, because we've given a big tax break and then we're giving another big tax break that we didn't anticipate. And that's really the change in those balances.
Doug, do you have something you want?
Well, I just wanted, Representative Furniss said that he had a hard break a few minutes ago, and I just want to know when that is. And I just wanted to be able to have one last word, basically, to thank him for coming and talking to us on this. You know, it's obviously an emotional topic, and a lot of people don't know what's going on, and that's what the purpose of tonight was, is to find out a little bit about what's the pros and the cons, because admittedly, I had no idea. You know, I knew about the tax credit. I didn't know how it worked necessarily. I didn't know a lot about what was going on. And so I appreciate you coming and talking and being willing to talk to us about this. And because it's important for us to know. So I know, look at the TV. Sorry about that. So you're here and you're
No.
there too. So
You look great. You look great. I really do appreciate the debate. Appreciate what's been said. Idaho does a great job of discussing issues, and fortunately we can do it civilly and without, ire. And I appreciate Mr. Nate, appreciate Howard coming on, and I appreciate the opportunity for me to discuss this.
Thank you,
I would
Rod.
love to give you just a final thought if you would like to take it before your hard break,
Yeah.
just to kind of wrap things up, Representative. And thank you for the good work you do.
Oh, thank you kindly. Appreciate that.
but do you have something you'd like
Yeah,
to
do
finish?
you want a
Oh.
final
comment?
a closing statement before you have to leave?
I just want to talk just briefly about the JFAC process. We go through those budgets with a fine-tooth comb, and we're really trying to balance this budget without touching our savings account. We have $1.7 billion dollars, sorry, trillion, $1.7 billion in our savings account right now. And the governor's, we're really trying not to touch that. I believe we're going to be able to do that. And without touching our savings account, we've had to really tighten our belt. So not to give raises this year. There will be no new cars, no new computers. Literally, I just saw the budget today, only $20 million in asks from the Department of Corrections and from Education is all the money that we have to hand out this year in JFAC. And that has not been that way for years. And so I just want you to know that Idaho's watching every tax dollar that you have. We're doing a good job, I believe, of being good stewards of those tax dollars. So I appreciate a minute to tell you that.
Well, thank you very much.
And thank you very much. Let's give him a big hand and actually, and thank you, Representative Furniss. And so, in fairness to him and all that he's not here to defend himself, I think we're going to give Ron and Howard one last closing comment and whatnot, so that and we'll end it right now. That way,
thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Right there. So I guess go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to say that we've been working on this for years. Idahoans want it. It would be a popular move to get rid of the grocery tax and clunky grocery tax credit system. It is not a difference of opinion of whether the 200 million is coming from out of state or whether it's 24 million. There is a truth there. It's not a difference of opinion. I have the data. It came from the same source that Representative Furniss cites. 24 million of it comes from out of state. And like I said before, it is a clunky and unfair system to tax 400 million from Idahoans just so that on net we can collect 24 million from out of staters and then keep 175 million of Idahoans' monies into government. The government budget is in a pickle right now, not because of tax cuts, but because of overspending. Overspending has exceeded its bounds. 60% over 6 years is way faster than inflation and population growth. That shows excess in government spending. I sat on JFAC just like Representative Furniss did, and I voted no on excessive budgets. In fact, there were only 2 conservatives who were voting no. We got called into the chair's office to ask us to stop voting no on budgets. It's not a deliberative, sober process. It's a very political process, and special interests get served very well because they are the ones who are heard by the JFAC committee members. I've voted against that. I have voted against excess spending, and I vote for tax cuts for Idahoans. I care about Idaho families. I don't care as much about revenues for government when I've seen the waste, fraud, and abuse that happens. So thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate this forum, and I'm going to keep working at Idaho Freedom Foundation for the betterment of Idaho. Freedom, lower costs, lower taxes. Let's go.
All right.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
And Ron, just remember, I sent you my email address. Please remember to send me that document. And if you want to highlight where you were talking about, that would be helpful possibly. And I'll send it out to everybody so everybody can review can see what you were talking about. Thank you again.
I only have one copy, Doug, and you're even going to get better. I have highlighted it, and you get to see some of my snarky notes in the column too.
Okay, that'll work. You can scan it and send it to me.
Okay.
All right. And finally, Howard, we'd love to give you the opportunity to share some final thoughts. Thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here. It's been quite a process the last 5 or 6 months for me. Thanks to Doug to have this opportunity also. And I really want to thank Ron. He's got the, with somebody with an economics background and degree that he's got, he was definitely here to answer the hard questions. I really am, we discussed a lot of the money tonight, the issues. I think it's, you can make your own conclusion on that. However, there's just this other angle to it that a lot of people do feel very passionate about, and that is, why are we paying taxes on the food we eat? Why are we one of only 4 states that do that? Is it any different than paying taxes on the water we drink, the air we breathe or the sunlight. I mean, that's getting pretty ridiculous, I suppose, but maybe not. Maybe not. It's a fundamental right. We don't have any other choice. Let's just get rid of it, simplify things, move on to bigger and better things, maybe like repealing, everybody says, hey, let's get rid of the property tax. Okay, this one is right in front of us right now. It is difficult, I will say. It's not the easiest thing to try to get an initiative through based on signatures. 70,770 signatures are what we need. We still have till April 30th, and we're going to work hard on that. It's not the easiest thing to do, to get volunteers, to get boots on the ground. If we had that structure, and that was a little naive on my part to begin with, right off the bat, but if we get enough volunteers to get those signatures, I'm certain those signatures are out there to be had. So if not, hopefully our legislature will hear a bill if one is brought this year, and I think there might be one. And if that's the case, it better get, now that the public's aware of this a lot more, it better get a hearing. I hope it does. And, like Representative Furniss said, they discussed the 155 tax credit last year. He didn't give any comment about even giving any look at, probably because of the chairman of that committee wouldn't bring it out of a drawer. So we know that, the public knows that. So let's move on from there. Thank you again for this opportunity.
Let him vote.
Thank you so much.
All right, yeah, let's give him a big hand. And what I'll say is this is, this has been recorded, and we live streamed recorded. It's on our Rumble channel. Go to our Rumble channel. You can find it, share the link to whomever and all that. This is an important question. I think we've learned a bit tonight about the grocery tax, what it means, what the repeal would do, and that type of stuff. And the only way we can make a difference is if we make a difference. And so it's up to us to do that. And if you're in support of the repeal, I would say, get a petition, go out, get the 50, 100 signatures that would help. If you had 100 people doing 100 signatures, it gets up pretty quick. And the question is, where do I get the petition?
Doug, can I give a website real quick? Repeal Idaho grocerytax.org. We had that petition on that website for a while. It was too difficult to keep track of the way people were trying to. I mean, everybody was downloading and trying to. There's a lot of errors. In other words, was what I'm trying to say. But I have that saved as a PDF, and I can send that to anybody out there, and would be more than happy to do that. Again, repeal Idaho grocerytax.org, and there's a phone number on there. There's contact. There's information, whatever you need. Thank you.
Okay. And I will try to remember to put that actually when I get Ron's paper and on my newsletter next week that I send out, I will try to remember to put that website link on it, and as well as Ron's paper and things like that. So, and if anybody has any questions, let me know, and I can get a hold of Howard or Ron or Rod or anybody, and we'll try to get the answers figured out. So
Doug, can I just add one thing? Anybody that wants to volunteer out there to get signatures, please let me know.
Yeah, I think that'll be a key thing. If you want this to happen, you need to volunteer to help make it happen. Okay, and that's the key. Volunteer to help make it happen. Go get those signatures. Again, guys, Howard, Ron, thank you so much. We're going to let you go. And again, thank you, Jolene, for hosting, for moderating this and everything. I think did a great job. And I'm gonna let everybody go. But next week, and I'm really serious about that, and every one of you need to bring 4 or 5 people. And I'm challenging you to do that because it's an open mic. And what's on your mind? We talked a little bit about grocery tax repeal, and the reality of it is this has an impact on us. But there's a lot of things out there that has an impact on us, and we need to figure it out, and we need to talk about it. So come next week, let's have a discussion. Thank you so much. See you next week. Take care.